Oh, hello everyone, and welcome to Tuesday Tea. I, of course, am Paegan O'Ceallaigh, resident druid, VTuber, perpetually picked off pixie, but most importantly, a content creator like all of you. And this is our Tuesday Tea segment where we talk about all of the things that affect us as content creators, all of the things that we wish we knew when we started, all of the things that we're learning along the way. And today we're going to be talking about boundaries. Some boundary basics which are super important to you, to your streaming, to your videos, to your live content. Even if it's just Twitter, boundaries are super important, and we're going to be talking about those today. As always, these were never meant to be just me sitting here spouting on a topic as if I am the be-all, end-all of information on these things, because I'm not. I am just a content creator going through this journey, just like, any of you that are in the chat or are watching the video on YouTube, and I can only share with you my perspective, what I know, what I've learned, and what I've seen other people encounter. So if you have a question, or if you have a differing opinion, or if you have anything that you'd like to share, I invite you to please jump onto the Discord. We'll pull you into a channel, we'll get you right up here in this nifty little box so everyone knows who you are and who is speaking. And we can hear you out. I'd love to have a discussion with you about whatever pops into your head regarding the topics that we're talking about. So, with that out of the way, let's get into it today. We are talking about some boundary basics. You know me, I love my alliterations. Boundary basics today. So, boundaries. Boundaries are vital for your sanity and for your productivity. They are, my gosh, I know I say this a lot. I like to say that things are important, but they're important. A lot of the things that we talk about here are really important, and they're things that you really need to think about. This is why a lot of our Tuesday teas, a lot of these first ones here are covering like the big topics, the really important stuff, and then we'll move into minutia later. So boundaries are vital for your sanity and for your productivity, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And boundaries do not make or enforce themselves. I wish they did. It would make our lives so much easier, but they don't. They don't. Boundaries don't make or enforce themselves, so it's on us. The onus is on us as streamers, as content creators, and generally just as people to make our boundaries and enforce our boundaries. Now, of course, this workshop is meant for content creators, but when it comes to boundaries, they apply to everyone, every single person. You don't have to be a creator to have personal boundaries and to enforce them with people. So even if you're not a creator, if you're not a streamer, if you're not a YouTuber, if you're not, I don't know, an influencer on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, there should still be some points here that you can take home with you. So today, we are going to talk about what are boundaries? What exactly are they? What do we mean when we say boundaries? And we're going to be specifically talking about content creation, but feel free to apply them to your full life as well. We're also going to talk about why are they important? Why is having boundaries and setting them with people important? Why does that matter to you? We're also going to talk about how to enforce our boundaries with people, and we're going to talk about some best practices when it comes to boundaries, because I always like to leave you guys, when you leave these streams, when you leave these videos, with a couple of actionable things that you can do for yourself to improve your own content, to improve your own communities, or just to improve your own lives. So let's dive into it then, shall we? Let's talk about what exactly are boundaries. When we say boundaries, what exactly are we referring to here in this context? We're talking about limits that are placed on access to you. Now, that could be timing, right? Maybe you have a schedule, and so we're setting the boundary with people. I'm not available at this time. I'm only available at these times. It could be about that. It could be boundaries are, listen, you're not going to be DMing me at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying to sleep, or I'm working, or you're not going to be talking to me while I'm literally live on the air. Those could be a type of boundary where you're accessing or you're limiting the access that people have to you, but they could also be a limit on the types of people that have access to you. Now, some people have boundaries where, it's sort of an external sort of thing where only, say, subscribers have direct access to them, or only people that are on their Patreon have direct access to them. That's a type of boundary. Other people have boundaries about the types of people that can interact with them, as in, if you're a toxic person, you don't have access to me. That's a boundary. If you're someone who's just going to drain me mentally, you don't have access to me. That's a boundary. If you're, going to be pestering me constantly with questions about how do I do things, that's a type of boundary. So any sort of limit that you place on who has access to you and when, that is a boundary. That is what we're referring to. Boundaries are also rules to being in your community. Those are boundaries as well. So, if you have rules in your community of no racism, no sexism, no homophobia, none of that nastiness, that is a boundary. That is letting people know, if you're going to be in my community, you're going to obey the rules. You're not going to be racist. You're not going to be sexist. You're not going to be homophobic. And if you are, then you're no longer welcome. Right? So rules in your community are also a type of boundary. And those boundaries don't just apply to you, but they also apply to everyone else in your community. We've talked before in some of these other teas about how you have a responsibility to your community to keep them safe, to set those boundaries, to teach people how to be community members. But you also have a responsibility to lay those boundaries down and make sure that people who aren't going to respect those boundaries are not going to be around you, are not going to be around your community, and are not going to be part of that community. So that's very important to keep in mind. Limits on the types of interactions that you will accept are also boundaries. So, maybe you don't accept DMs. Maybe you don't accept video calls. Maybe, you don't accept people sending you photos. Maybe you don't accept voice calls. Those are all boundaries. Those are all boundaries as they relate specifically to content creators, right? Perhaps you're the type of person where the only time you're on a voice call is because it's in a public server. It's in a public channel, it's in a public place. Maybe that's your boundary. Maybe your boundary is people don't DM me unless I DM them first. Maybe your boundaries are, you can't send me a friend request, but I can send you one. Those are all examples of boundaries when it comes to the types of interactions that you accept from people. And it's very important that you set those types of boundaries. It is, and we'll talk about why it's important in a little bit. But those are a good example of boundaries for you. Boundaries are also guidelines to your content. Now, these could be guidelines for you. Your boundaries of, some people are say-so, right? We've got some say-so people out there. We've got some family-friendly people out there. We've got some wholesome YouTubers. And their boundaries are things like no swearing, no talking about sexually explicit content, none of that. Those are examples of boundaries, right? And they're a guide to your content. Now, it's not just for you and what you personally are creating or what you personally are saying, but those boundaries also apply to your chat, to your community, to the comments on your videos, whatever they are, right? If you have a boundary on what you accept in your content, that is a boundary, right? If you have a guideline or a limit, it's going to affect who you collaborate with. It's going to affect who's coming into your community. It's also going to affect if you do things like playing with viewers. If you do a Jackbox type thing or a community night where, you invite people into Dead by Daylight or Among Us or maybe Mario Party or Mario Kart or whatever it is. You've set a boundary and you say, hey, we don't allow this kind of thing here. If you have guidelines, if you have rules like that to your content, those are boundaries. So all of these things are what we're talking about and what we're referring to when we talk about having boundaries. I hope that makes sense. I hope it does. So now that we've defined what boundaries are a little bit, let's talk about why they're important. Now, first and foremost, boundaries save your sanity and your sense of self. Now, what I mean by this is that if you don't have boundaries with people, if people are just able to message you all the time about anything that they want, if you are expected to be at their beck and call, if you're expected to drop whatever you're doing and cater to them, if, they expect that they can come into your streams and into your chats and they can influence how things are, they can change the mood, they can change the atmosphere, they can do any of these things, you're going to end up losing your mind. You really are. You're going to just lose your mind and you're going to lose your sense of self because no longer are you. You are the you that people expect of you. You are the person that they want you to be, and the person that they want you to be is whatever they decide. Most of the time, the person that they're going to expect you to be is someone who is at their beck and call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Someone who is going to pay attention to them above everyone and everything else in your life because they like you. And you want them to like you, and you're glad that they like you and that they appreciate your content. But you also have things to do. You have your own life, you have things to do, you have work to do, you have other people that you have to interact with. There's going to be times, like it or not, where you're not going to want to sit there and entertain a fan or even a friend. At 3 o'clock in the morning, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There's going to be times where you just need time to yourself. And if you don't set boundaries with people, you're never going to have that time. You're never going to be able to get anything done. You're never going to be able to just be who you are. You're constantly going to have to be on all the time. And especially when it comes to fans or the viewers of your content, you're going to find that people are not going to respect the separation between here's the fluffy character that you see online, or here's my YouTuber persona, or here's what I'm comfortable sharing with the world. And we know as content creators that that's not necessarily who we are. It may be part of who we are. It may be, a caricature of who we are. It may be who we are, but a bit more exaggerated. Or it may be entirely who we are, but there's more to us than what we're sharing, right? And if you don't set boundaries with people, they're going to expect that person that they see on screen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, at their beck and call. And they're going to expect from you what they have worked up in their mind to be you. Now, for a little bit more information on that, you can look at our last Tuesday tea that we did on parasocial relationships. We go into that a lot. So I'm not going to go into it too much further here. But setting boundaries and enforcing your boundaries is going to save your sanity and your sense of self, which is going to do marvels for your mental health. Trust me on this one. Alright, been there, done that, didn't even get the lousy t-shirt. Okay, learn from my mistakes, save your sanity, save your sense of self, set your boundaries and set them hard. The next reason why having boundaries is important is because they allow you to have control over your time. They allow you to have control over your time. You're a content creator. Creating content takes time. No matter what it is, no matter what kind of content you're creating, you're going to have to write a script or make art or record or edit, or maybe you're animating. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Any type of content that you create takes time. It does. That's why not everyone on the face of the planet is a content creator, because it takes time, it takes effort, it takes work. You need time to do those things. A lot of people, a lot of you are not full-time content creators, so you likely still have another job, and that takes time. And then, you have a house, you have household chores, you need to do the grocery shopping or pay the bills, or you have children or whatever it is, right? Time is an important thing. So you need to be able to set boundaries over your time. You need people to know, hey, I need time to do my work, I need time to do my laundry, I need time to shower, I need time to just exist. I need time. And so you need to be able to set boundaries with people about your time. Because if you don't, you're going to run into, you need a 48-hour day every day of the week, which is not possible. Trust me, I have tried. Just don't. Just set boundaries with your time. Alright? Set boundaries with your time. You need that control. You really do. It's one of the most important things. And some of my moderators are here in chat and will gladly tell you, yep, we have to yell at Pay all the time about setting boundaries with her flipping time because she doesn't. Yep. I'm not perfect. I am not perfect. I am still working on some of these things myself. Not mastered, but they're things that I've learned. This is why I share them with you. Because if you're just starting out, if you're thinking about becoming a content creator, if you're doing research about it, maybe you just started, you want to know what's in store, I want to let you know this is what you're in store for, and I want to try to tell you the things that I wish someone had told me before I started out. If I've gone through it, and I've gone through the hell and the mess that is learning these things, there's no reason why you should have to also. I mean, you can if you want to. You don't have to take my advice, but, wouldn't you like to know that something is hot before you touch it? You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, that's right. That's right. You're welcome. All right. And the last reason that I want to talk about why boundaries are important for you as a content creator is because they keep you in control of your content. Now, I know we've talked about it before. We've talked about how a lot of people tend to go, hey, I have this group of people and they would like to see this kind of content and this is what they want and this is what they're constantly bombarding me with. And so I'm going to go ahead and give the people what they want, give the fan service and all of that. No. You need to be able to set the boundary that says, no, I am this person. I am Mr. Blob Evil. This is the kind of content that I create. This is what I do. This is who I am. This is what you get. Take it or leave it. What you don't want to do is go, oh, well, I don't really like that game and it makes me uncomfortable. I don't really like, being involved in big groups of people or huge collabs where there's 1,200 people talking over each other, but this is what you guys want to do, so okay. No. Setting boundaries keeps you in control of your content. It keeps you making the kind of content that you want to make. It keeps you creating the types of things that you want to create. And it lets you be you. It lets you set out to do what you set out to do. And that's important. That's important. Because if you've watched any of our other Tuesday Teas, you know you have a plan. You have a plan for what you want to do, for the kind of content you want to make. You have a plan for where you want to go. You have a plan for the type of community that you want to make, right? And you don't need to be peer pressured, because it is peer pressure. It is community pressure. It is pressure from your peers. It is pressure from your friends. You don't want to be pressured into doing something that you didn't set out to do, because it's going to be at the cost of what you did set out to do. And that's not good for you. That's not good for anyone at all. It's not what we're looking for. So being able to set boundaries, have boundaries, and set them is important to keep you on the path that you set out on in the first place. It's very important to remember that. So, we know what boundaries are. We know why they're important. Let's talk about the hard part. The hard part is how to enforce your boundaries. This is the part where a lot of people struggle. It is the difficult part, because a lot of us got into this, a lot of us, when I sit down and I poll, specifically VTubers, when I talk to VTubers, when I say, why did you become a VTuber? It's because I wanted to make other people happy. I wanted to give people a place where they can go and they can hang out and they can have a good time. I want, a lot of streamers are out there for the same reason. They want to entertain. They want to brighten people's day. They don't want to make people upset. They don't want to put people in a bad mood. They don't want to upset people. And unfortunately, when it comes to setting boundaries and enforcing boundaries, people tend to get upset. People don't like to be told they're doing something wrong. People don't like to be told, hey, stop that. People don't enjoy it. And it can be very hard to sit there and have to be the person that says, hey, you're being bad. So enforcing boundaries tends to be the hard part for a lot of people. And there's lots of different reasons why. But we're going to talk about how to properly enforce your boundaries with people, what you can do, and how we can sort of set our boundaries and keep things going and keep our sanity, keep control over ourselves, our sense of selves, our content, and everything else. So, first step to enforcing our boundaries: make your boundaries clear. Now, this means having a list of rules in your chat for your live streams, having a list of rules on your YouTube, having a list of rules on your Discord. If you need more space, have rules in every channel. Whatever you need to do to make your boundaries clear. If you need to make personal boundaries clear with you, feel free. Make a public post somewhere. Put it on your community tab, put it on your About Me section, put it in a panel. Have a panel for rules to just let people know, hey, I don't accept DMs, I don't want videos, I don't want this, I don't want that. Make your boundaries clear. Make your boundaries clear from the get-go, and you won't have to do a whole lot of enforcing, because the boundaries are clear and they're there and they're easy to see for people to understand. Oh, okay, this, when you're working, you only want to talk about things you're working on. When you're gaming, you only want to talk about the game you're playing. When you're, on do not disturb mode, that means I should only DM you if there's an emergency. Whatever it is, make your boundaries clear from the get-go. Now, if you've already started streaming, if you've already built up a bit of a community, you're like, hey, I didn't do this when I first started. That's all right. It's never too late. It is never too late. You can sit down right now and make those boundaries clear. Write out your rules, make your boundaries clear. Once you've done that, you have the added step of you're going to have to let people know. You're probably going to have to do an @me announcement or something, make a post on Twitter, whatever, and just be like, hey guys, for all of you, that know me or whatever, I realised I never made my personal boundaries clear or my community boundaries clear, so I want to rectify that moving forward. Here they are. Here they are. That's it. That's all it takes. That is all it takes. Set those boundaries. Alright, if you didn't do it from the start, you can do it right now. Right now. It does not matter. Does not matter. Do it. You absolutely can. Go for it. Now, if someone is not respecting your boundaries and you need to enforce them because they're not being respected, again, make your boundaries clear. Let them know, hey, I don't like DMs. Hey, I don't accept private calls. If you're going to speak to me, it's only going to be on a private server. Hey, I don't like being tagged in every random TikTok that you come across that makes you think of me. Please stop. Make your boundary clear. Be nice about it. Let them know. Don't approach it as in this person is intentionally, running over my boundaries. They just don't care. They're an asshole. I have it posted. They're not listening. The very first time, don't approach it that way. Maybe they didn't see it, maybe they didn't read it, maybe they forgot. It doesn't matter. The first time, just make it clear. Just, hey, I don't like DMs, I'm uncomfortable with it. Hey, I have a boundary where, I don't like people drawing me with their OCs. Whatever your boundary is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your boundaries are. They're your boundaries, and they're valid. They are your boundaries. Let people know. Let them know. So step 2 to enforcing your boundaries. Apply your boundaries uniformly. Now, what this means is if you say, I don't want to be in private calls, right? If you don't accept private calls, don't accept private calls. It's not, I will accept private calls if it's an emergency, or if you're a friend of a friend, or if you're this, or if you're that, or, our boundary is you're not allowed to make racist jokes, but you can make them if they're about your own race. That's not applying things uniformly. You're leaving a lot of grey area there, and people are going to get confused. They're not going to know where that boundary actually is. If I make a racist joke about Irish people, is that okay because I'm Irish, or is it not okay? And then, so someone else is likely going to, it'll spiral from there, right? Because they might not know, okay, they're just going to see a racist joke. They're just going to see a racist joke and go, okay, well, that must be okay here. So then they make a racist joke, and you're like, well, you've said something about Asian people, are you Asian? I'm like, no, I'm not, but I thought it was funny. Oh, well, we only allow it if you are the race. And you can see how it quickly snowballs. So when it comes to setting a boundary, set your boundary, make it a hard and fast boundary, and apply it uniformly. If there's no swearing, there's no swearing. Period. So if someone comes in and drops an F-bomb, that's a problem. You're going to jump on them. You're going to say, hey, this is not all right. It's not, there's no swearing unless you're really excited. Then it's kind of okay. Nope. Apply your boundaries uniformly. Apply them uniformly in your community and make sure that they're applied evenly to everyone. Now, what that means is just because someone is your friend does not mean they don't have to respect your rules or your boundaries. You may be a great friend of mine. I may know you since before I started streaming. But when you come into my community Discord, for example, you're abiding by those rules. I don't care. I don't care how close we are, how long we've known each other. I don't care if I know your humour and I know you're joking. If it was someone else saying what you're saying, then you're getting smacked for it the same way they would. You need to apply your boundaries uniformly to everyone if you want them to be respected and you want your boundaries to be respected. Knock knock, it's always time for tea. Yes, it is. Thank you for reminding me. YouTube doesn't have the channel redeems and I always forget to, drink liquid. Again, what is this world coming to when I'm expected to take care of my own basic needs? I don't know. Don't know. But thank you for the reminder, Nook Nook. I appreciate it. Might have forgotten otherwise. Well, I did forget. Alright, so step 3 to enforcing your boundaries, to how to enforce your boundaries. Very simple, kind of obvious. Let others help. Let others help you enforce your boundaries. That's right, let others help. Now, I don't mean expect other people to remember and enforce your boundaries for you on their own, but let other people help. If you have moderators, let them enforce your boundaries. Let them do it. Let them do it. Don't hold them back. Once they know their boundaries, let them help you. Let your community help you. You know, if someone new comes into your community and you have community members that are like, oh, hey, you know, you seem like a cool person, but we don't really talk about politics here. Or, hey, we don't talk about religion here. Or whatever it is. You know, let them help. Allow them to have that freedom, because the space that you're in, your community, is their community as well. It's their space as well. Allow them to enforce those boundaries. Now, I'm not suggesting that you allow everyone to have a banhammer or that sort of thing, or you allow your members to dogpile on someone. But create a space, create an atmosphere where, you know, if you're with someone, if people are in your community and someone's crossing one of your boundaries, allow other people to feel comfortable stepping up. Now, this could be anything. I'm going to give you a great example, which is I have a member of my community who is non-binary and uses they, them pronouns. Because of the community that we have, I know their boundary, I know what their boundary is, and I also know that they're worried about enforcing that boundary for themselves. So if we're in a voice chat, and someone refers to them by the wrong pronoun, I am absolutely the type of person to jump in and be like, it's them. It's them. I also have some trans friends who use different pronouns, and I will definitely jump in and be like, actually, their pronouns are she, her. Actually, we don't talk about, you know, Scientology here. Actually, we don't want to do, you know, any sort of religion bashing because, you know, we have members of all faiths here. And I have people in my community and friends and people around me that do the same thing. Yes, you have to get used to enforcing your own boundaries, but let other people help you. If someone's going to step in on your behalf and help you enforce a boundary or point out a boundary to someone, don't sit there and say, hey, I appreciate it, but you really don't have to do that. You don't have to. No, shut up. Be grateful. Be grateful. Let other people help you enforce your boundaries. Let your community help you enforce your boundaries. Because if someone's helping you enforce yours, that means you're likely helping them enforce their own. And not only is that going to help you as a singular person, it's not only going to help your community as your community, it's going to eventually create a shift amongst a bunch of people. Because think about it. If you come into my community and I help you enforce your boundaries and you help me enforce my boundaries, and then you go into another community, you're in the habit of enforcing your own boundaries and helping other people enforce theirs. So you're going to be over there and you're going to help them enforce their boundaries and you're going to continue to enforce your own boundaries. And the people that you interact with are going to learn, oh, you know what? I should really respect these boundaries. These are important. I never considered these things before. I never had to do this before, but it makes sense. I'm not a bad person. I don't want to upset people. I don't want to hurt people. I'm not intentionally being an asshole. I just never considered these things before. And then they're going to get into the habit of enforcing their own boundaries and helping other people enforce their own boundaries. And it's a snowball effect through every single person that you come into contact with. It takes time. It does. But if you're sitting there and someone is helping you to enforce your boundaries or your community boundaries, and you're telling them, hey, I appreciate it, but you really don't have to do that. You don't have to speak up on my behalf. You don't have to do this. What you're telling them is what they already know, which is they don't have to. They're not obligated to do so. They already know that. But they are choosing to do so anyway. And when you tell them you really don't have to do that, what most people hear is, it makes me uncomfortable when you do that. Please don't. And that's not what you mean at all. So let others help you. And instead of feeling bad that they're helping you, be grateful. Say thank you. Just say, hey, thanks. I appreciate you, telling someone what my pronouns are. I appreciate you stepping in and ending a conversation about religion. I appreciate you putting a kibosh on, this conversation we're having about vaccines or whatever it is. Say thank you. Let others help you. All right? Okay. So, that's it. Those are the 3 steps. It's very easy. The 3 steps of enforcing your boundaries. Make your boundaries clear. Apply them uniformly. Let others help you. Plain and simple. Easy enough, right? You can do that. If I can do that, you can do that. All right? It's super easy. Sure, it may be hard. It may be difficult. You may run into people who just don't give a damn. You're going to run into people who, no matter what you do, are not going to respect your boundaries. Whether they're your personal boundaries, they're your community boundaries, doesn't matter. You are going to run into those people. It's going to be unpleasant. It's going to suck. But that is why you are equipped with a ban hammer. Or, if you're one of my moderators, a murder shovel. But you have a block button. You have the ability to not answer a call. You have the ability to ban someone from your chat, from your Discord, from your Twitter, from your YouTube. You have the ability to block someone's phone number on your cell phone. You have the ability to tell someone to go kick rocks. It's hard. It sucks to have to do it. You always hope things never get to that point. But if they do, you have the power, you have the capability, stand up for yourself and your boundaries. All right? So, as always, we like to leave you with some best practices, some things that you can apply to yourself when it comes to your own boundaries, setting them and enforcing them. So here we go. Here are some best practices for you. Have a plan. Ha! There it is. You thought, oh, we've not done a tea in a little while. She's probably going to forget to say have a plan. Nope! Here it is. Have a plan. Have a plan for your boundaries and have a plan for how you're going to enforce them. Now, we talked about this in depth when we talked about community moderation. If you've not seen that tea, I'll link it down below or in a pinned comment or something down there for you, or you can just search the playlist. I know for a fact it was the one on community moderation, but have a plan for your boundaries and how you plan to enforce them. So if your boundary is, I don't want people DMing me unless I DM them first, have a plan for how you're going to enforce that. I want you to think about how are you going to apply that. Are you going to close your DMs? Are you going to make it so people can't get in there at all? If you don't want people, calling you, are you going to not give people your number? Are you going to not add people to your friends list so they can't call you? Are you just going to let every single person know when you do, add them as a friend, hey, I don't like calls? Whatever it is, however you're going to do it, have a plan for how you're going to enforce that. When it comes to your community boundaries, What is going to be your system for when someone breaks a rule? What is going to be your system when someone steps out of line? Are you going to give them a warning? Are you going to put them in the naughty corner? Are you going to time them out for X amount of time? Are you going to just kick them from the community straight out? Are you going to have a plan of escalation? Have a plan, sit down and decide on these things and how you're going to put them together. How are you going to enforce your boundaries? You've got to have a plan. Because what's going to be very important about having a plan in this instance is when it comes to boundaries and people not respecting your boundaries, it can tend to be a very emotionally charged thing, right? If someone's not respecting your boundaries, they're essentially walking over you as a person. You're going to feel it personally. It doesn't matter how much you tell yourself. You're not going to feel it at all. You're all business. It's not going to affect you. At some point, someone is going to disrespect a boundary, and it's going to affect you personally. On a personal level, on an emotional level, as a human being, you're going to feel it. Now, you might not have a massive anger response. You might not feel super sad. You might not burst into tears. It doesn't have to be an extreme emotional response. But you're going to have an emotional response to this. And if you have a plan for how do you handle this situation, how do you handle someone stepping out of line and crossing your boundaries, then you can know that in that moment, how you handled it, which was according to your plan, you followed your plan, you did what you planned to do, you know that your response, your reaction and your behaviour was not just because you were upset. It was not, you didn't overreact. You're not in the wrong here. You didn't do anything wrong. And you behaved appropriately. And being able to have something like that when you are upset is super important, right? Because it's going to make sure that you're not the type of person who just blows up out of nowhere. Right? You're not the type of person who curls up into a ball and cries for 3 hours because you don't know how to handle something. You have a plan, you know how to handle it, and you can handle it and appropriately. Have a plan for what your boundaries are and how you're going to handle them. And I don't mean have a vague concept in your head. No. Take out a notebook, get out a piece of paper, open your favourite word processor, start writing it down. Make a list. Make a list today. Sit down, write a list of what your boundaries are for you as a person, what your boundaries are for you as a content creator, what your boundaries are for your community, and then go back and write a couple of sentences, write down some ideas, jot down bullet notes, however you work best. Come up with how you're going to enforce those boundaries. Now, the plus side of doing that is once you have those things, you can then turn around and make them public if you'd like. You'd like people to know how you're going to handle things? Make it public. You want your moderators to know how you handle things and therefore how you want them to handle things? There you go. Pass them that list. Done deal. Makes life easy for everyone. Have a plan for your boundaries and how you're going to enforce them. The next best practice, the next best tip? Best tip? Yes, that's right. Best tips. That's what these are. Tuesday tea tips, best practices. There we go. The next best practice that I have for you guys is to be quick to jump on infractions. Now, what that means is you've set a boundary with people, you've set a boundary with your community, and someone steps out of line. Don't give anyone the benefit of the doubt. Don't give anyone the benefit of the doubt that, oh, they stepped out of line and they realised it. Don't do it. Be quick to jump on infractions. Be quick to go, hey, my pronouns are they, them. You don't have to be angry about it. You don't have to be, you don't have to rip their head off. But never assume that they know they did something wrong. Be quick to jump on it. If you guys have ever been in any one of my Twitch chats or in my Discord, chances are good you've likely gotten a message from one of my moderators. My moderators are fantastic about this. They are very quick on the first offence to just shoot you a message and be like, hey, can you not double post? So that way they know right away that you know, hey, this is a boundary, this is the line. There's no question about it. You might have missed it in the rules, and that's okay. You know, you might have skimmed over things, you might have just gotten excited, you might have just forgotten, but we're going to remind you. We're going to remind you quickly. We're going to remind you as soon as we see it. So that way, you know right away, oh shit, all right. And it doesn't have to be a major thing. You know, you don't have to blow up on someone and be like, my boundary is this and you're not respecting it. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. But you do have to be quick. Because if you let it go one time, then instead of teaching someone what your boundary is, you're teaching them what's okay. You're teaching them, oh, well, you know, I talked about politics here yesterday, and that was perfectly all right, so I don't understand why it's not all right today. I made this joke, you know, 3 days ago. I've just made it again. I don't understand why that's not okay. It was fine then, but now it's not. Enforce your boundaries. Be quick to jump on people when they cross the line. When they cross that line, draw your line in the sand, and when someone starts getting close to it, just let them know. Just be like, hey, buddy, hey. See that line right there? You're crossing it. You mind getting back over on the right side of it? Thanks. It doesn't have to be a big deal, but if you don't jump on things quickly, you're teaching people that it's okay. That's the opposite of what you want to do. So our next best practice. Don't apologise for having boundaries. Just don't do it. I know it's hard. I know it's really hard for a lot of us. We're people pleasers. We want people to like us. We want, you know, everyone to be happy and sunshine and rainbows all the time. But life isn't all sunshine and rainbows, and you are a person. You're a person with your own wants, your own needs, your own emotions, your own life. Okay, your boundaries are valid and they're important, just like you as a person are valid and you're important. Your community is valid and important. Your boundaries exist for a reason. Do not apologise for having them. Don't apologise for having them. You're not in the wrong for having boundaries. Don't let anyone make you feel bad because you have boundaries, because you're enforcing your boundaries. If someone does, and I say this wholeheartedly, alright? Look at me. If someone makes you feel bad for having or enforcing boundaries, that person is toxic. Remove them from your life. Alright? Plain and simple. Feel free to at me about it. I will fight about that. If someone makes you feel bad for having or enforcing your personal, professional, or community boundaries, fuck that person. You don't need them. They're not good for you. They're not good for anyone. They need to take a good hard look at themselves, and you personally have better things to do. Alright? We clear on that one? Good. And the last best practice that we have for you guys today when it comes to boundaries is remember that your boundaries are there to make you comfortable, not other people. Your boundaries are to make you comfortable, to give you time, to give you control over your content, to give you control over your community, for you to be comfortable hanging out in the spaces that you hang out in. Your boundaries exist for you and you alone. Now, yes, they are going to transfer to your friends and the types of people that you hang out with. The boundaries that you set for your community are going to affect the people in your community, because they are eventually going to rely on the boundaries that you've created. Because they're going to go, oh, well, I know this is a safe space. There's no racism here. There's no homophobia here. Everyone is accepted here. Those are the boundaries. So they're going to rely on that and go, okay, well, if someone else is, doing those things, hello, you're not meant to do that here. But when you're starting out, when you're setting your boundaries, and especially your personal boundaries regarding who can be in your DMs, who gets your time, who can be on call with you, all of these things, your boundaries exist to make you happy, you comfortable, and you sane. Your boundaries are not meant to cater to other people. In this particular instance, when you're setting your boundaries, think about no one but yourself. Think about no one but yourself. Because if you're not happy with your boundaries, if your boundaries don't work for you, then all of the other people that are going to be around you are going to be affected. You need to set your boundaries for you, not for the benefit of other people. If you need to set the boundary that I can't have people in my DMs unless I DM you first, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that other people, might not be the type of person to sit and wait. Or they're uncomfortable because if they don't send a good morning text or a good morning DM every day. Doesn't matter. It does not matter. Your boundaries are about you, not about them. And that is the most important tip that I could possibly give you regarding boundaries. Set your boundaries to make you comfortable and to make you sane, not other people. And that's it. That is it. That is all that I have for you today on boundaries. I hope it was helpful. I hope we cleared up some things. I hope we've made things clear for you. If you have any questions that you did not get to ask, anything that you would like to add, please feel free to join us on the Discord. I'd always love to have a chat about it, or leave a comment down below. I read every comment and I respond to every comment of substance. If your comment is just first, I'm probably not going to respond to that because there's really nothing for me to add. But if you have any questions, if you have any tips that you'd like to make, I do read every comment. Please feel free to leave them in the description box below. In the description box, yes, that's right. All of you, your comments now go in the description box. In the comment section down below, I will reply and respond to those. As always, if you learned anything from this video, if anything was helpful for you as you sat here in the live stream, if you would please hit that thumbs up button down there. It helps me out more than you could possibly understand, more than I could possibly explain to you. It helps out so much. And if you'd like to see more of these, if you'd like to see more Tuesday Teas, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you never miss another one. And of course, as always, a huge thank you to everyone that has been using Grove Grooves in the backgrounds of their own streams, in the backgrounds of their videos, or just sitting there listening to it on Spotify or Amazon when they're hanging out, working out, cleaning the house, cleaning the fish tank, whatever you're doing. Thank you so much. It's greatly appreciated. If you're not using Grove Grooves yet, please feel free to consider. Link is in the description below. It's everywhere you get your music. It is copyright and royalty-free music for streamers, creators and role players by small-time artists, by independent artists, just like you, just like me. And it's great. It's great. We love championing other people, especially some great artists out here in the community. So, that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for being here, and until next time, may harmony find you.